very important, and I guess you already know why. So very quickly, the history. So there was the first initiative in 2018, so 7 years ago already. But then it was reviewed. I mean, the process is that you do the initiative and you update it along the way. But there's the normal process, and there was also some report from the European Court of Auditors who identified some gaps in the policy and urged the Commission to fill this gap. In particular, also on the governance of this initiative. So now, because of that, we have, it's not clear, but we have a working group on pollinators among the EU biodiversity platform, which gathers all, which is the leading body for the EU biodiversity strategy for 2030. And so in the end, the latest version now is 2023. Just to mention here that it's, you have the interinstitutional feedback, but also with all the policy now, you have public consultation. We are consulting stakeholders, so companies, businesses, but also civil society organization. And I think it's quite, if I mention here, it's important. It's also because we have one of the ECI, sorry for the acronym, European Citizen Initiative, one of the first. There are a bit more than one, but it's not so easy to reach the minimum threshold. You have to gather more than 1 million signatures in different countries with a share of each country. So it's not so easy, but we had one, Save Bees and Farmers, who ask and urge the Commission or the EU institution to take concrete action to protect pollinators and farmers. So it's quite important in the context and the framework we have lived and we are currently living these past years. Citizens ask to the official, to the institution, to provide some minimum income for farmers to help them live with their work, with less pesticide agriculture, with a better, healthier agriculture for biodiversity, because they care about their bees, butterflies, and the others. So the nature restoration regulation, very quickly, well, that's a regulation that is the main regulation on biodiversity that happens since maybe the last 20 years. We have a lot of environmental regulation in EU, as you probably know. We have the Habitats Directive that are quite old, but many others, the Water Framework Directive, and so on. But, well, as you also know, unfortunately, despite all these tools, things are not going as well as we would like to, or as fast as it should go. So we have this comprehensive already framework, but thematic regulation for water, for biodiversity, for forest, for something. And here we have the nature restoration regulation, which is really taking a global approach with an approach now not only on conservation, but also on restoration. So we have to restore biodiversity, and then we will have to conserve it, and hopefully maybe in a utopic future, we're insectopia, maybe one day we won't need conservation at all, because we will be a thriving biodiversity everywhere. That will be the goal. The main target, and it's going here, sorry, it's this Article 10 of Nature Restoration Regulation, is also the first action of the EU Pollinator Initiative, is to establish a monitoring scheme, in a way. That's the first action of the EU Pollinator Initiative. It's establishing a monitoring scheme for pollinators. And the target here in the Article 10 of the regulation is a binding target for member states. They will have to reverse the decline of pollinators until by 2030, both in abundance and biodiversity. And diversity, sorry. So, as you know, probably, biodiversity monitoring is not easy, but it's easier when you're talking about, I don't know, bears, wolves, big mammals, large conifers, or reptiles, but or or big birds. But when we are talking about insects, it comes a little more tricky. So, well, that's not a problem. It's difficult, yes, but it's needed, and we have set up this ambitious target, and we are very insisting, and that's something I think you will agree, on a science-based method. And so we want to have an approach which is randomized, standardized, and so on. So I'm not just, I mean, we are currently on a process of establishing this monitoring methodology. It will come later with another slide, but I'm also here and I'm starting to tease a bit, but just be aware that the public consultation on this monitoring act will be arriving soon. So maybe you will have comments to make and we will be happy to take it into account. So this framework, the Pollinator Initiative, which is the communication and now the nature restoration regulation target, is 42 actions across 3 different pillars. We know a lot of things already on pollinators, and we know they are declining, unfortunately, quite well. But it's also, I mean, even if it's one of the most animals. I don't remember, sorry, the name of the grouping of these animals, but invertebrates are the most spread and numerous group of living being in our planet. But they are, I mean, very hard to study and very not so well known compared to the other group. So we have a lot of things also to learn. So we have to be humble. So first thing, even if we know a lot of things, we need to improve and still improve, continue to improve our knowledge. But with what we know, we have identified the main issue, the main trigger of this decline. So we need to tackle these causes, and we will need all the forces we have. So we need everybody, and that's also one reason I'm here. Also, involvement, citizen engagement, and stakeholders, and so mobilizing society and strategic planning is the third pillar. So comprehensive monitoring system and indicators. And as I know that I'm talking with scientists and some art scientists, when we can say, and my background is a lawyer, so I'm always very humble with scientists that can say things I don't really understand. I try to understand the big picture. That's already good. But so, and I appreciate that we are working with experts that are very good, but also humble, and that's also something good. We need always to continue to look and to search. Nature restoration regulation, the main act was a regulation adopted last summer, and the secondary legislation, it's what we are currently working on, that will be coming in the next month. It's also based on research. The red list assessment, I guess, I mean, we can also be a bit interactive, but I guess you know it, red list assessment? No? European red list? Don't be shy. Okay. The red list, so I see that maybe you don't really know. Just very quickly, the red list process is something built by IUCN, so International Union for Conservation of Nature, and it's what defines the threats to species, to all species. When you hear about in the news about an endangered species, it comes usually from the European red list, from red list, sorry. So the red list assessment is IUCN. It can be global, it can be local, and we have an assessment at EU level. And for pollinators in particular, that's a good thing because many member states, many countries don't have their national red list, but at least at the EU level, we have identified for the 4 main groups. I mean, some are going to be published soon, but we have published already 4 red lists, and we are updating it regularly. So at the EU level, we have a good knowledge of the most threatened species. Another concept that I could have put in bold, that's something very trendy, and that we will have to work and advance a bit our knowledge on quite soon. It's the key pollinator areas, we want to identify, it's one of the actions is to identify with member states, Commission and member states, to identify the key pollinator areas. So I think it stands by itself, just to be sure that the restoration efforts that will take place, for example, with the nature restoration regulation goes where it's really needed and where the efficiency of this measure is at its best. We also work with a lot of capacity building, so experts, field tools, infrastructure, data access, expertise. It will come. I will come later with different projects, but we have one project with the European Red List. We have the species, but we did publish. We also published in 2022, sorry, a European Red List of taxonomic expertise, because, well, we know that the expertise for insect taxonomy is scarce, and well, for all various disciplines, there's also age issue, pyramid issue. So the experts already there are, well, getting older. they deserve some retirements. So we need to train more taxonomists. And as we are setting up in place a monitoring scheme at the EU level, where we want to identify for the 4 main groups of pollinators, the species at species level, we will need trained experts. We will need person on the ground to count and to be able to identify on the spot the species, or also people in laboratory with binocular be able to identify this species. So we are, improving and working, funding some project to improve pollinator insect taxonomy in Europe, especially for the main 4 groups. We're also working with AI recognition for database, many things like this. Oops, sorry. So yeah, like Antonio mentioned, with the dossier you have, I was just earlier thinking about to say, oh, I forgot to mention these 2 projects also, and these other things, and this website. It's comprehensive, but it's quite massive. Since the 7 years, there's a lot of things going, and it's quite well. But sometimes, you have some doubts, and you say, maybe we are duplicating and we are losing energies because we are duplicating. But we try to gather all the knowledge we can. But there's a lot of projects. So as you can see, this I don't know. I can say a few words about 1 or 2, but many of these are Horizon Europe projects. So with the program funding the research, main program funding the research in Europe. So it's usually more a few millions. It could be for 3-4 millions to 10 million euro for a few years, and usually big project with different package. So focusing on monitoring on the ground, on improving taxonomic, but also with a socioeconomic perspective. I can see, for example, these 2, Bee Guards and Better Bee, are sister projects that are more focusing on the relationship with on honeybees and the relation between honeybees and other pollinators. Because I'm sorry, I haven't been saying that already, but I will insist a bit. But we all like honey, and we like honeybees. It's an insect, a pollinator, but it's a domesticated one. And our action and the EU Pollinator Initiative is focused only on the wild pollinators. And yeah, we are insisting. Well, it's tricky because we like honeybees also, and we used the honeybees for its, well, it's a symbol, and everybody loves honeybees. So it was useful for many years to help getting person involved. But now we have also to rebalance and to insist. One species making honey, living in colonies, in hives, and so on, for 2,200 species of bees in Europe. So don't talk always of a star, please. Remember the other one. And different projects. Safeguards is very a big one project finishing, but was very wide. going on all the topics, very interesting on pollinators. Veilor and butterfly, I don't see the logo, but they are here, and they are mostly focused. This one are really recent projects, working mostly, as you can see, dependence of society. So it's how the economy, how much the economy relies on good pollinators, yeah, population and diversity, both. Pollinera white posh with pesticide risk assessment. There's also another project, I think there's in another slide, Insignia, where we looked at, we use bees, and in this case only bees, sorry, but as a bioindicator to measure pollution, pesticides, eventually also PFAS in our surrounding. So yeah, again, a list of projects, and apologies, but we don't have at the moment an exhaustive list of all the action we are doing. So maybe after this festival, we will try to build something like that. I talked already about it, but just to mention it again, this project of EPIC. So maybe, I mean, it's not yet sure, and for now it's too late, but maybe some of you can be interested in working in the field of pollinator taxonomy and want to be trained. And we are thinking of continuing, I mean, extending the project. So we are focusing on the country in the EU where the taxonomic knowledge is the lowest, and also with the prioritization, countries where the efforts for monitoring will have to be the highest, which is somehow a bit strange, but it's more for smaller countries, so with lack of capacity. So in Eastern Europe in particular, but just to mention it, be aware, we'll try to keep in touch and to give you updates when this kind of news will happen. Also very important project is MBAL, so working on the monitoring of biodiversity in agricultural landscapes. So with a landscape vision, that's also something we try. I mean, pollinators, we can talk for hours, but we can also talk about pollinators. Wow, fine, okay. Sorry. We can talk pollinators from the plant perspective, from the habitats, from the landscape, so from the insect itself. So there's different perspective, and it's also interesting to go to the landscape vision. So 5 minutes. I will have, sorry to speed up many things. Many action and some action about the cause, how to tackle well the UCAP network, and this workshop Antonio attended in June 24 is one of the action we are doing, where we bring all the knowledge, good practices for farming, organic farming, and pollinator-friendly practices. We also have species. We have founded at the EU level the Commission Species Action Plans, and now we have a contract ongoing to ensure the implementation of this species action plan, which is quite new. We have the habits, sometimes we build a plan and okay, there's a plan, check. No, it's the plan and how it is implemented in the ground. Another point, I mean, I guess you're a bit aware of the Habitats Directive, and so the main text at the EU level on biodiversity conservation, let's say. And we have this POL project, very nice, which brings together this habitats perspective, habitat specialists, where we want to identify for all the terrestrial habitats of Annex 1 of the directive, a list of typical pollinator species, and a recommendation to improve their management for member states. It's also a very nice project that I started recently. Just as we are in Spain, not so far, but noted that we have a special plan for Canarian Islands, and so endemic species in Ireland is something, I mean, important to trigger and to make some focus, because as the decline is fast, we know everywhere, but in Ireland it can be faster and more problematic. And also all these things. So life projects is really on the ground with a lot of action. We think about greening, so urban greening plans. Buzzline goes with key pollinator areas. After having identified the key pollinator areas, we want to create highway for pollinators, like there's one in Tallinn, for example. Maybe you know, there's a pollinators highway, and this kind of idea. We identify where the pollinators are thriving, where the best place for pollinators, and we connected the species together. That's the idea. We also work on how to manage invasive alien species, particularly dangerous for pollinators. And okay, third part, and I have a few other slides, but I will be just taking some time to mention this particular project we really liked and that just started, is starting. Okay, the Year for Pollinators project. So it's a project funded by the European Parliament. It's a pilot one. So there's three different parts. And one is the Young Citizens Assembly, Youth Citizen Assembly on Pollinators. We will really create some assembly. We are finishing the selection of 100 young person from 18 to 30 across Europe, totally randomized, coming from city or rural area with knowledge on biodiversity or not, with a positive opinion on EU or not, and so on. And we will really have free physical session, but the process will go for more than 1 year, and maybe we will extend it and have a permanent assembly later on. But the idea is really to give this person representing a young, and also we will have stakeholder engagement, so it will be beyond this 100%, but they are representative. And we want to give them the tool to challenge our policy and to tell us, I mean, where are the lock, how to encompass, to go beyond this lock and to really move forward on results, have really meaningful results for pollinators on the ground. The buzzing schools is for me something that is a bit like Insectopia initiative. I mean, it aims to integrate pollinators preservation with a STEM approach, so not for younger people, so from primary to secondary school, and to integrate it in all the topics. So in biology, of course, but maybe in geography, you know, mapping. In English, you learn the name of pollinators. In mathematics, because if we do monitoring, you can be sure that you're not monitoring all the insects, so you have to do modeling, to do a bit of statistics, and so on. So that's it. And the other one, this third one will be also of interest for you because it's starting. It hasn't really started yet, but it's small grants for fund for youth. So there's many young people here, and we will be funding civil society organization led by young people below 30 years old, from 18 to 30, but also individuals. So good to know. It's less amounts, small amounts, but I mean, I don't remember exactly. I can check, but it could be 10,000 euro. I mean, we're not talking about 500 euro. It's thousands of euro. Okay, also, and we need to work on that national pollinator strategy or regional or local. I mean, again, maybe Jarandia de la Vera, after this Insectopia initiative, will build his pollinator plants, and it will be good. And it can be regional or national. So we want to also to push member states to have what we have at the EU level, some strategy really taking all the aspects, important aspects into account. Stakeholder collaboration, if it's involved, I mean, it's an example. We are here, and you are this kind of collaboration we want to have. And for the global action, also, we are working with the Food and Agriculture Organization from the UN on a global platform on pollinators. Because, I mean, very quickly, but we all heard about Mercosur agreements, agree or not agree. Do we want to have zero pesticide in Europe, but eat food coming from another area where pesticides are spread everywhere? I mean, no. So we also want to push action above our EU area. And just last slide. It's well, something you may know or not, but you can try. It's a way of involving people, mobilizing society. We have built a few years ago this VR project, Pollinator Park, which is a bit like, well, as they did some remake, you know, Jurassic Park. Well, it's not Jurassic Park. I hope not, but it's a dystopia. It's to show a world where, unfortunately, we haven't worked well, and pollinators have been declining so much that we have to keep these pollinators in this park. And it shows you where their importance. I mean, you have, for example, some parts of the park where you can see a canteen and you can go across time and you will see that your plates are, I mean, the meal accessible are diminishing years after years because, well, no chocolates without pollinators, for example. I'm sorry to say it. And so you have a VR website. It's a VR application that you can use with many headsets, so from Meta or others brand. But Meta works and HTC as well. But you also have a website, quite interesting and visually appealing. And for now, it's on 4 languages, but we're on 5, Montenegro as well, because it's featuring Montenegrin area, so they paid for the translation, but we want to translate it in the near future in all the EU official languages. And that's it. We also have our Hive. It's in the folder. I mean, there's many things. The Hive is, we will change it soon, but it's probably be redirected. But we have many other resources. I mean, I mentioned something I was thinking. It's the Pollinator Academy, for example, where we are putting many resources. I was thinking for your Moodle. I mean, we are putting usually in licensed Creative Commons, so reusable by everyone. And so we have Orbit Taxofly projects that are, we have collected many pictures of high quality for taxonomic courses and so on. And sorry, I was a bit too long on the first part. Thanks. Happy to take your questions and comments and talk.
Thank you very much, Nicolas. Any questions in the audience? Please. So Maria Maya, researcher, Vice Deputy Cluster 6 of the World Bank Street, the European Alliance.
Thanks, Nicolas, for your presentation. Very informative and exhaustive about all the topics and all the things that cover the European Commission. My question is regarding the first part of your presentation. I think that you have like 1 million signatures from agricultures to protect bees.
Yes.
And my question is regarding this. Sometimes we misunderstand the biodiversity of pollinators and probably the awareness of the farmers about the protection of the pollinators, honeybees, is great. But what about the rest of wild pollinators? Do you feel that they are so aware about this as well?
Well, the name of the initiative is Save Bees and Farmers, but you can't say Save Bees, Butterflies, Moths, and Other Pollinators and Farmers. It would have been too long, but it's not focused on bees, honeybees in particular. So, I mean, I think I'm not sure there's so many differences between the awareness of farmers regarding honeybees or other pollinators. I think the farmers that are interested in pollinators, they are interested in pollinators, not only in honeybees. They are interested in biodiversity, and they know that they have to take into account biodiversity, and that it's pointless to continue in the same direction without. I mean, you may have to use in the future. We may have to use still pesticides, but you need to take into account the effect it has on your soil, in all the rest. I mean, and farmers know that. I mean, mostly they know that. I think that's it's. We're trying also. recorded as well. But we are not judging anybody. We are not here to explain to farmers exactly how it should work, but we also saw that the yields of every crops are not exactly increasing. Many of the crops yields are, on the contrary, decreasing, and that we need to do something. So, but I don't think the awareness is limited to only bees, and I hope so. Thank you. Yeah.
I have a specific question on invasive species. You quickly talked on this. So in your green, we focus on education, research, innovation, and social engagement. And I think it's important to educate people on biodiversity, also to teach them about invasive species. So I have a question. If you want to quickly talk about your invasive species list in the EU, but also a call for action. When I go to typical garden shops or construction shops in Germany, I still see plants that are being sold that are on the invasive species list in Switzerland and other parts of the world. So we can quickly talk about how you trying to regulate it. And you don't want to regulate stuff, but if it's really invasive, so if there's any actions that you foresee that
well, we have in the same unit of the pollinators team, we have people working on nature restoration regulation, but also in the invasive alien species regulation and CMS, conservatory migration species, well, conventional migratory species. Sorry, and finance, EU finance, many, we are 20 above, yeah, almost 20 in the unit. There's, if I understand well, it's more related to plants and seeds spread. I mean, not invasive species, no, alien species, maybe not invasive, but alien species, because I mean, I don't know well the topic of invasive alien species, except for agenolets, of course, especially pollinators, maybe. And then I killed it. No, try not to. No, we have some action plan for native seeds. That's something coming for next year, probably more. The resources are limited. We are three person working full time on the Pollinator initiative, so it's not so much for all the EU. I mean, we have colleagues. We are working with colleagues in DG Agri, DG Santé, and others. But we have a project. We want to build a database with native species that are good for pollinators, with a different group of pollinators, and to. It's soft policy here. It's really guidance, recommendation, but yeah, try to minimize the fact that we have in all the garden shop species that are supposed to be good for bees, but that are not local. So for plants, we think about that. And it's, if it was the question, I hope so. Okay. And there's very interesting already. We will try to build on already existing initiative. For example, I'm sorry, I'm from France, so I know better what is going on in France. There's this nice initiative, Vegetal Local, which is branded. It's a brand that has been built by public authorities, so the French Biodiversity Agency, and they are putting it with all the stakeholders in the region, Vegetal Local, and you have this website, and people can go and find local plants for for the garden. Sorry.
Nicolas, thanks very much for your presentation. Gail from ATU in Galway, in Ireland. Earlier on, you referred to a special plan that you have for Ireland in relation to the significant decline of pollinators. Is that correct? Or what is the island?
Island, yes, island. Not Ireland, but island. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Insulatory territory. Yes. Insular territory.
Okay, so
yes, sorry.
Okay, so we're both Ireland and an island.
Yes. It works both for you.
Would you mind elaborating just in terms of the specifics as to why that's an area of focus for the EU as opposed to mainland? We do have, I suppose, some challenges in terms of habitat. We have ash dieback, native trees in Ireland were diseased in recent years, and as a result of that, to remove a lot of our ash plants. It's significant for my students who actually work in the furniture industry, and education. So they're utilising diseased plants to try and utilise it for something other than habitat, because it must be removed in order to remove the disease. So we see that as one of the problems that is of significance in Ireland at the moment.
Okay.
But I'm interested to hear more as to why the island is being focused on.
Well, it's not exactly a focus on island, but on some small islands, smaller at least, is that when you have, my purpose was that, is when we have threatened species that are endemic in an island. Well, if the threat is important and you don't treat it, you go from very fast from threatened to killed, and this extinct species. So that's why we have this focus in the free action. I mean, we have one of the free action plans we have founded dedicated to an island, a territory, which is the Canary Island in this case. These free species plans were took from a list of 15 species action plan we have thought of, but I don't really know exactly the 12 others, but I know we have a bulk of many species action plan, and we will try to sort and found progressively these different funds, plans. So, yeah.
Thanks, William. You mentioned the updating of the red list for these butterflies and insects. At the moment, am I right in thinking there's no designation for special areas of protection based on insect species like moths or maybe butterflies? But I know certainly not moths.
In the Natura 2000 network?
Yeah,
or?
so you know the way at the moment currently, say you had IUCN red list mammal, you could, or bird, that can be created as a special area of conservation.
Yeah.
Will that change with the update for?
There are a few species, a few butterfly species in the annexes of the Habitats Directive that could be a reason to design a special sites, a Natura 2000 sites. They are not enough, and that's one of the action indeed that we need to work. I mean, we need to work with our colleagues first, which is the unit. Unit D2, and the D3 unit is the unit for nature conservation. So we're not very far, but we also need to work with the stakeholders and with natural protected areas manager. But the idea would be, I mean, first a view, maybe if we update one day the list to put more insect species in it. A way to do so is also with the Polar project, I hope, with the identification of this species, typical pollinator species for habitats of the directive. Maybe we will also go further on with adding species in the list. Yeah, that's the plan is there. We clearly have to improve the way we are taking into account pollinators, even if they are not in the list of species that can justify the designation of a protected area. Well, we have protected species and endangered species, insect, pollinator, endangered species in this area. So we need to improve the way we are managing this area regarding this this species in particular.
Thank you very much. We have a last question, and then we will go to the coffee break.
Remember that I'm staying here. Yes.
All morning, so we can talk to him. So the last question, Annalise, and then we go to the coffee break.
Okay, hi. I didn't know if I heard this correctly, but did you say something about trying to inspire like some sort of like initiative like this in like the United States?
Sorry, I missed it.
Sorry, did you say like something about the United States, like trying to inspire an initiative there? Or did I miss it?
No, I don't know. I'm trying to remember what I could have said that was close to United States. Just I mentioned international action, just with the FAO. I mean FAO, but not only. But for now, I mean, as we have the European Pollinator Initiative, there's also an international pollinator initiative that has been drawn in the context of the FAO. And we've also, we got the coalition of the willing, that's called now Promote Pollinators. We gather member states, countries interested, involved a bit more than the others in the pollinator preservation. But I didn't mention especially United States, because talk. I mean, there are also nice initiative in the US. There was, I mean, up to recently. So I don't know. No, I think there will still be, because I mean, a lot of these initiatives are citizen-led. I mean, stakeholder with CSOs, with university or federal states. So it's not only at the states, not federal. So nothing is lost.
Nicolas, again,
Just as a connection from US and Ireland, I know I studied in the US in Stevens Point, Wisconsin, and one of the leading resource things like ash dialect and ash boys in Wisconsin. So the Department of Natural Resources, I think even 20 years ago, they already studied this. So check that out. So that's just a link to the US.
It's all gone.
I know. Okay.
okay, so thank you very much for this fruitful session, for your insights, and to share all these resources and initiatives. Thank you very much, Nicolas. Again, you will be with us today, the whole day. You will visit all the teams. Now we will go to the coffee break.